Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make a strawberry pavlova. So this is going to be a meringue base, and the meringue will be crispy on the outside and marshmallowy on the inside. And then on a dip in the base I'm going to put some whipped cream, and that will have a little bit of sugar and a little bit of vanilla in it. And then on the top of that I'm going to put some chopped strawberries. It does take quite a while to make because you have to make the meringue in a mixer or by hand. Then you bake it for an hour. Then you actually leave it in the oven for 2 to 3 hours until it's completely cooled down before you take it out. That helps to firm it up. But after that everything is very, very quick. So it doesn't take much effort. It just takes a little bit of time. And then we'll whip the cream and put the strawberries on top as well. So to start off with, I have my oven preheated at 150 Celsius. That's 130 Celsius with a fan, 300 Fahrenheit. And I have a baking tray which I have put some parchment paper on, and I have drawn a 20 centimetre 8-inch circle in the parchment paper, and then I turned the paper over so that when I put the meringue on, it doesn't actually come into contact with the ink from the pen that I drew with. So that's the getting everything ready to start with. So I go on to the ingredients, and for this I have the whites from 4 medium eggs. That would be large in the USA. I have 175 grams of caster sugar or superfine sugar. That would be 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons. I have 5 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of corn flour. I have 7.5 milliliters, 1.5 teaspoons of white wine vinegar. And I have 5 milliliters, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to use half of the vanilla extract in the egg whites from the meringue, and the other half will go into the cream. And then I'm going to use about 300 milliliters of double cream or heavy cream, and into that I'm going to put 25 grams, 2 tablespoons of caster sugar, and then I have about 300 grams of strawberries, and these are quite large, so once I've washed them and hulled them I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces. But how many strawberries you use is entirely up to you, and how much cream you use is entirely up to you. So the first thing we need to do is to make the meringue. So I'm going to put the egg whites into the bowl of my stand mixer, and I'm going to beat those until they're nice and frothy and begin to thicken just a little bit. So they have begun to thicken a little bit now. And I'm going to continue whipping them, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my sugar, and I'm going to add that fairly slowly, maybe a tablespoon at a time, until the sugar is all incorporated and the egg whites are forming stiff peaks. So I now have stiff peaks, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my white wine vinegar and I'm going to put it into a slightly larger dish, and into that I'm going to put my corn flour, and I'm simply going to stir that around till the corn flour doesn't have any lumps. And then I'm going to add that into the egg white meringue, and this is going to help to make the marshmallow inside. And I'm also going to add in at this time my ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I'm simply going to whip those to get them fully combined. So that's good. So the next thing to do is to put that onto our baking tray and put it in the oven to bake. So I shook my whisk to get the excess off. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dab a little bit of egg white or meringue mixture on the corner of the baking tray so that I can use that to hold the parchment paper in place while I put the remainder of the meringue on. So I'm going to put the meringue into the centre, and push it down. So with the meringue on, I want to spread that out so that it just goes to the edge of my 8-inch circle. And you can be as neat or rough as you want with this, but I want to fill the circle completely. And if you go over the edge a little bit, it doesn't matter. But I want the edges built up. And the centre to have a slight dip in it. And to me that looks quite good, and I have the slight dip because I like to put the cream into that dip and then put the strawberries on top, but you can do it any way you want. You can have it completely flat if you want it. And I'm just going to pull up so that we get a few little peaks on the top, and then I'm going to put that into the oven and I'm going to bake it for 1 hour. And after an hour, I would probably just come back and show you what it looks like. But then with the oven turned off, I'm putting it back into the oven, and I'm going to leave it there for 2 to 3 hours, maybe 3 hours, so that I know that the outside has dried out slowly. The inside should still be marshmallowy, but it shouldn't be too fragile, because meringue tends to be fragile. If yours cracks, it doesn't matter. Meringue does crack. That's because it's very fragile, so it really doesn't matter. But I will come back and show you what it looks like after an hour, and then I'll let it cool down before we go on to the next step. I baked the meringue for the pavlova for 1 hour, and then I turned the oven off and I let it cool down. I was going to come back and show it to you, but I thought I want to leave it in the oven. So I've left it in the oven for just about 3 hours. Now I've taken it out of the oven and I've put it onto a plate. And as you can see, I did mention that it may crack, and that tends to happen with these meringues, but it's fine. So it's baked quite well and it should be soft inside. I'm going to put that to one side for a moment while we work with the cream. So I have the cream in the bowl, and I've got actually about 350 millilitres, but as I said before, the amount of cream you want to use is up to you. And I'm going to put into that first of all, I'll put in my ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract that I said I was going to use. And as I start to whisk this, I want it to be nice and thick. I'm going to add in my 2 tablespoons of sugar. So that didn't take very long at all, and that's whisked to nice thickness now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cream into the meringue, just like that. And I have washed, dried, hulled and chopped my strawberries. So I'm just going to drop those on. And again, you use as many or as few as you want. These were quite large, so that's why I chopped them. If they were smaller, I might have left them whole. And so with the strawberries on, really all I want to do is to have a taste of it. So I'll just try to cut some. I would usually just use a spoon, but maybe I'll try to cut the meringue a little bit. So you can see inside it there, and this is the meringue, which is nice and soft. So I have the cream here and meringue here, which is nice and soft. So I'll have a taste of this one. It's very, very nice. The meringue, of course, is crisp on the outside and it has that marshmallowy texture on the inside, and it's sweet because we have sugar in it, but then that's offset by a bit of tartness in the strawberries, and the cream's not oversweet because I didn't use much sugar in that. So this is actually a very simple recipe, and because it's prone to cracking, it doesn't have to be the most perfect design. And of course, when you try to serve it, it's all going to crack and crunch up anyway. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for this recipe, and I'll put a link below the video for it as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.